The following is a BATV production, made with the equipment that is available to residents of our cable viewing area. To learn more about television production and the equipment that is available to you, please visit www.mybatv.com.
Hello, and thank you for joining us at BATV's Fall Toast Studios inside Batavia High School. My name is Cathy Gresey, editor of the Kane County Chronicle, and I will be your host and moderator today on Viewpoint. Viewpoint is a roundtable talk show that highlights a specific topic that is being discussed in our community. In today's show, we will discuss the Batavia Sports Facilities Master Plan. Here to participate in the discussion are Dave Andrews, Athletic Director of Batavia High School, Mitchel Krusz, an athlete from Batavia High School, Cathy Dremel, District 101 Board President, Dr. Lisa Hichens, Superintendent of Batavia Public Schools, John Pitz, a Batavia resident, and Lisa Farley with the Batavia Bulldog Boosters. Thank you all for joining us today. When we return, we will hear the viewpoint of each of our guests. Stay tuned.
The Dremel & Jansen's Law Group has practiced law in Aurora since 1961 and in Batavia since 1994.
We focus our energy on representing people and businesses and families in the local community.
We represent clients in Kane and surrounding counties in matters ranging from divorce to wills, business law to zoning.
We focus our efforts on planning and working towards positive resolutions for businesses and families.
When clients need someone to fight for their interests, we're ready, willing, and able to act as aggressive advocates to protect their interests.
Dremel & Jansen's Law Group with offices in Batavia and Aurora and located on the web at batavialaw.com.
Hi, I'm Tom Wangler, President of Confident Air. Regular maintenance can prolong the life of your furnace and keep your energy costs to a minimum. Plus, there's less of a chance of a breakdown on a cold winter night. Your furnace needs proper care and attention to keep it running smoothly, so you don't end up paying too much for heating during the cold winter months, or worse yet, with deadly carbon monoxide poisoning. We recommend an annual inspection to ensure safe operation. Confident Air, your trusted home comfort professionals since 1992.
Let's get started with our first question. Dave, for those who aren't familiar with the details of the Batavia Sports Facilities Master Plan, can you please provide a short synopsis of the project?
Sure. The main goal of the project is basically to bring all our athletes back to our property. We farm out our soccer program to HC Storm. Our program practices at Rotolo. Our marching band is over at the local parks. And so the idea is to develop a facility that benefits our student athletes or basically anybody involved in extracurriculars. So we're looking at a total renovation of our 60 or so acres, brand new softball fields, brand new baseball fields, an artificial auxiliary turf field, and then a stadium renovation, which will make viewing for our fans that come to either soccer games, lacrosse matches, or our Friday night football games a more enjoyable experience. And that includes an expanded seating, in the stadium, a new artificial turf field to have more longevity with our grass or our turf, so our programs can practice on that. And then an expanded track as well, again to 8 lanes versus 7 that is on there now, so we can host larger meets. And in turn, with those renovations, obviously we can host more events, bring more revenue into the booster club through concessions or just through spiritware, whatever the case may be. And it's just basically an overall upgrade, again, for the community itself, but also for our kids that are involved in our extracurricular activities.
Sure. Would anybody else like to talk about the creation of the plan?
It has been I would say it has been a couple years in the making, if not longer. I know that for many years, probably more than 10 years, we've been putting a lot of the improvements on hold on the facilities. So it was time to come up with a master plan. So when we're making repairs, we're not throwing good money after bad. If we make a repair here and then have to go and move the field to a different location at some point in the future, that would be not a good use of our money. So it was time to come up with a plan. They selected an architect about a little more than a year ago to design the plan and started working with different parent organizations to help come up with a good design.
Sure. And Mitch, you are an athlete at Batavia High School. You're on those fields. Can you first tell us what sports you play, and then can you talk about the conditions of those fields and if they've impacted the way that you and your teammates have been able to perform?
I play football, I wrestle, and I do track. I will say turf is definitely a difference. You have more speed, more grip. We've played some of our best games on turf. Last year, Glenbard North, at their house, they have turf. This year, Geneva, laid down the law, and that was good. So. Yeah.
And overall, how do the fields at Batavia High School compare to the fields at other schools, in your opinion?
We have, a pretty good field. It doesn't get too muddy, but, there are games where it can be, very slidey, not sure if you can take a, false step or not.
Sure. Dave, what do you think about the condition of the Batavia High School fields compared to what you've seen at other schools?
Yeah, just like Mitch said, I mean, our stadium field is in very good condition, and that's a testament to our Buildings and Grounds Department.
Sure.
And that is, they do very good work on that. But we really only have 30 to 35 events in that stadium per year. If you look at our auxiliary fields, our football practice field, which is also the outfield of our baseball field, that just in and of itself, the wear and tear lends for poor conditions for our baseball field. And then just the other auxiliary field that we play lower level soccer, again, practice football on, those are the fields that are really concerning as far as just the wear and tear. Injuries can result from not having the proper, water out there, just, again, the overuse of it. If we get this additional turf field on our stadium field, we can move practices on there. You can move PE classes on there. You can obviously host more than 35 events per year on there. And so even one turf field will help all of our entire natural grass fields in the surrounding area improve. Because again, you take relief off of there, right. So you can, rejuvenate the natural grass fields as well. And so, yeah, like Mitch was saying, stadium's good, but it's only a matter of time just as our participation numbers increase, as we continue to add levels. We've added lacrosse. We play 5 levels of football. We have soccer, boys and girls. It's just a matter of time as the community grows, these fields are going to deteriorate to the point where they are unusable. If you look at numbers back from 1984, a 30-year comparison, you're looking at about 50 levels of competition back in, 30 years ago, 1984.
Okay.
Compared to today, 2014, you're looking at almost 85 levels of competition. And that's just the growth that the district has had over those, over that 30-year span. And you're looking at fields that really haven't had anything done with them for almost 50 years. Yeah. And so we're working on the same footprint that we've had for those 50 years.
Can you talk too about some of the safety aspects that come into play with the current configuration of the fields? From what I understand, there's the potential in some instances for balls to be flying off some of the fields, and because of the way they're configured, that some people might not be actually looking out for these balls when they're flying right into where they're sitting.
If you're a baseball fan or a softball fan of Batavia High School, it's a very hazardous place to walk into. Not only for the players, but also for the spectators. We have what is considered the traditional clover leaf, layout of 2 baseball fields and 2 softball fields adjacent to one another. Unfortunately, the fencing is not high enough. It's not proper enough. The home plates are too far away from the backstops themselves. And it does create an environment where it's not enjoyable for the spectators, because they're always worried about if a ball from another field is going to come hit them. And unfortunately, we have had that happen as well. And then just the proximity of our varsity baseball field to our track and field facilities, mainly the shot and the discus, as Mitch would know. Mm-hmm. Foul balls or long hits from those fields can get into those other areas of play and competition. Again, it's just not for the number of athletes that we have, it's just not a conducive thing to have, around the high school.
Mitch, you ever have any close calls out there?
Yes,
Yeah.
actually. At practice during track, there's balls over the fence all the time, right by us. One time at a meet, a girl got hit in the head.
Wow.
And she got a concussion. So it's not too safe.
And it sounds like with the plan as presented, there'd be the alleviation of some of these hazards out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all new fencing, reconstruction. Actually, we're going to try to redesign one of the lower level baseball fields to make it not in the direct line of the other ones.
Sure.
And actually, hopefully, we'll have a brand new baseball backstop here very soon with a recent donation, and so we can get that going as well.
I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit more. Cathy, can you tell me, when you were setting out to do this project, what kind of feedback were you getting from district residents, and how did you solicit that feedback?
There were actually a number of ways that we solicited feedback. First, just to create the plan, we had mostly our stakeholders involved in telling us what they needed, what they saw were deficiencies in our current fields, and so that was what led into actually creating the plan. But then once that plan was created and went through a number of vettings with these different groups, then we put it out to the public and talked about it at numerous board meetings and at numerous locations. So I believe it was presented at Rotary. I believe it was presented, like I said, at a board meeting. And so we did that, and at that time asked for public comment, but then we also put it on our website and requested public comment, and we actually did that twice. And we had a lot of different opinions, but it was overwhelmingly positive.
Okay.
Which was kind of exciting to hear that people really thought that it was long overdue. They really liked the idea of having all of our teams back onto our own fields. And, a lot of people view this as just an athletic plan, but as Dave mentioned, we have marching band, which is, I believe, like 100 kids who are not on our own property as they're practicing. So we did get a lot of feedback, but of course there were some negative comments also, which we very much wanted to hear. And so some of those negative comments were some misunderstandings, and I actually think Lisa's going to touch on that, but there were concerns about taxes.
Okay.
Which is, a legitimate concern when you're a taxpayer in the city. There was concerns about the synthetic turf. There were concerns about that we had this grand vision and that we weren't taking taxpayer concerns into account.
Gotcha.
So,
Lisa, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Like Cathy was saying, this was presented at the board several times, and I know one time was in February. It was presented, and that's when it was put up on the website and asked for comment, and we had one citizen make a comment. So then we decided, after 4 new board members came on board that hadn't seen the original presentation, we decided to present it again at a board meeting and we made sure that people knew that it was up on the website for comment. And then we received quite a few comments, and people coming in and giving their feedback during public comment, and people contacting the board directly. They ended up having coffee and conversations out of some of that. One of the reasons they started coffee and conversations with the board was to help continue the conversation, because as a board, they have some difficult decisions to make, and they want to make sure they're hearing all the perspectives. So I thought that was a success in the amount of the number of discussions that have taken place. Then as we do get feedback, we do have some very positive things, like Cathy said, some people that have concerns, and then there are some misunderstandings that we always take every opportunity to correct that we can. So this is a great opportunity. I know at board meetings we talk about it, and we contact people directly and try to clarify some things. I think one of the biggest was when the board actually voted in July. This was at least the 3rd presentation to the board when they voted, and they said that they would approve this vision. I think the biggest misunderstanding at that point was that people thought that this was, that there was a dollar attached to it, and that would be passed along to the taxpayers. And so we've hopefully clarified that this is really a destination, it's a vision, this is where we want to be. We didn't necessarily vote on the path yet of how we're going to get there, and I think that is hard for us to get that message out, that this is the vision that we're excited about. We already started that journey a little bit with some fundraising that happened, and we look forward to some more of that. Another thing, people talk about the football and they say this is just a football expansion. So I think Dave talked about how our field is only used about 30 days for the entire year. And when you think about that potential, it is a football. People think of it as a football stadium because it isn't used very often. But once we open it up for everybody to use, I think that will change people's perceptions about what that stadium is for.
Sure. And Lisa or Cathy, I hate to say it, but there are sometimes school board meetings where you don't get a lot of feedback in any way, shape, or form based on a topic. I would imagine that this is not one of those topics that you got a lot of feedback. How would you compare this topic compared to others as far as the community response goes? Pretty heavy or moderate?
There was the one meeting that we had quite a bit public comment, and then some emails that came right around that time, and lots of survey, but that was really that one time that there was quite a bit of discussion.
But it's been kind of a gratifying process, because we had, at that one meeting that Lisa's talking about, we had 2 hours of public comment.
Okay.
And there was lots of comments in favor and lots of just comments about people's concerns. But what I have loved about this community is it was the most incredibly respectful group of people, that one person would disagree with the next, and every person in the audience applauded for every person who spoke. Oh. So as contentious as this could have been, it's been a journey. And so that's really exciting as board member to see this journey taking place and to see us taking these steps that we've taken and really having an opportunity to connect with our community on this project.
Well, it has been a great discussion so far, but we need to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more Viewpoint.
This is not your regular bowling alley.
Not at all. We've got nighttime cosmic bowl,
Cool effects,
automatic bumpers for the little ones,
and our signature sandwiches in the grill,
plus the full-service bar,
and arcade mezzanine.
Funway provides a bowling experience like none other. Whether it's you alone, a group or family outing, leagues, or just some exercise and fun.
Funway is your time in the fun.
Funway, come out and play.
The Kane County Chronicle is your best source for news and information in print and online in the Tri-Cities and Caneland.
This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country. This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
This is Chronicle Country.
Welcome back to Viewpoint, where we're talking about the Batavia Facilities Master Plan. Lisa, I wanted to ask you, though there are many benefits that would come with the new athletic fields at the high school, the project does come with a high cost. How do you view the benefits versus the project's price tag?
Anytime you start looking at these numbers, these are not numbers most people look at on a regular basis. So it seems a little overwhelming, or very overwhelming at first. But we've got 2 fields right now, two pieces of land that we spend time, the main football field and basically a retention pond, that the athletes can't use the retention pond at all, obviously. And the football field, as Dave said, I think sometimes we spend more time keeping kids off that field to preserve it for games than we do getting them on. So we have 2 areas on a very landlocked area that we can't use. And so this money is, part of the money is going toward making these fields usable, making this space usable. And I assume a lot of this money is going to the drainage that is going to help make that retention pond, which is nothing right now, usable, and then obviously to the artificial turf. As a booster member, a great deal of money we bring into the booster program comes from concessions. Anytime we open up that concession stand, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So for us, anytime we can do that, it's great. On these artificial turf areas, you can do that more often. My son played lacrosse when we got together for the coaches meeting for lacrosse, and every game that was held in March went to the school that had artificial turf. None of the schools had a grass turf during the month of March. Okay. Nobody wants to be on those fields because they're going to get canceled. And when you cancel a game, every parent, every coach, every bus has to get redirected and rescheduled. So the more games we can get on those fields, the more money and concessions we make. So yes, there's a cost to it, but there's a lot of benefit to these athletes, getting them playing, keeping them busy. And as Dave mentioned, not only do we have the varsity programs, but you have the freshman and sophomore programs. And in any of these sports, those are your developing programs. And if those kids can't play, if they don't have places to practice and places to play, they can't develop their sport. And that's very challenging to get to that varsity level without having a good deal of practice at those earlier levels.
Right. And just to be clear, the estimated price tag on the project right now is about $17 million, correct? Has that changed? Or?
It's about 13.4.
Okay. Oh.
That's been the original
Sorry
estimate.
about that.
I don't think it's changed much since then.
Okay. And Dave, is Lisa correct in the fact that a good portion of that money will be going toward resolving the retention pond issue?
Sure. I mean, yeah, any project that you do at this magnitude, the majority of the cost will be going to the artificial turf fields. And obviously with the retention issues that we have, rainwater, obviously is going to be an issue. Thank goodness the architect that we hired through White & Company, that's what they specialize in. Pretty much any school district in the suburban Chicago area that has gone through a renovation like this has used that particular architect firm, and they specialize in those, issues,
sure.
those problems. If you look at just a school very close to us, Downers Grove North, they have a very similar footprint than that we do, and face the very similar issues that we did. And they have a great facility now. You talk to anybody that goes there, they've developed really nice, usable, property for their athletes, as well as their community as a whole to do that. And so, yeah, the retention will always be an issue, especially when you're on a landlocked, piece of property like we are.
Sure,
but thank goodness we have the right people working on it.
Oh, yeah. And John, you are a longtime Batavia resident, grew up in Batavia. Can you talk a little bit about what you perceive as the benefits of the project and how you weigh those against the price tag?
From my viewpoint, it is the price tag becomes the focal point. I appreciate benefits, but it's can we afford it? And I think that's really the issue. And from my standpoint, the first priority is our education. I appreciate everyone's first priority. When I say me, it's everyone, and that's critical. And we look at this project, and is it from a taxpayer standpoint? I don't think it's a doable project. That would stop it. But if you have the sports boosters involved,
right,
and you have donations, and you have a way of not only creating this, but in a sense helping to offset the maintenance of it, the constant expense, it becomes a doable project. And I believe that's what the focus is not that we're going to take taxpayer dollars and spend it for this. We're going to take community dollars, and those community dollars are volunteer dollars. Big difference from tax dollars. And I have two sons that went through Batavia High School, band. The other son played football, wrestled. They were involved, and I support the sports program, but I support the educational program, and to me that's the priority. And as long as we don't affect that and are able to use community dollars to improve our facility, it's a win-win.
And let me ask you this. If we were in the early 2000s, the economic picture would be so much different. For you, does that taxpayer idea become undoable, especially because of the economic times that we're in right now?
No, it would have been the same concern then. I was on the school board, and our concern always was the person on the fixed income. We want that individual to be able to live in Batavia. We don't want to tax them out of their home. And that's what I see from my limited experience of what's going on here, is there is a concern. It's recognized, and it's a vision. Okay, we have a vision. How do we implement the vision without overtaxing our people? I think that's the approach. That's the approach I see.
And there has been some significant effort already put toward fundraising for this project. And of course, at Geneva High School, there were some rather sizable contributions that went toward improving the facilities over there. Lisa, can you talk more about the project's timeline and potential funding sources for the project?
Sure. Like you mentioned, or that some people have mentioned, we do have donors that are coming just out of the woodwork here that want to donate, but there's also fundraising efforts that I think Lisa can talk a little bit about, being the booster representative here. From the district standpoint, we do have a capital improvements plan that every year we bring to the board and say these are some projects that we might want to look at for next year. So there could be small pieces of this project that at some future years could be incorporated into that plan. There's not on the plan right now. And like John was saying, that it is doable if you could break it down into smaller pieces. And that was one of the comments that a citizen wrote in their feedback to us, was they like the fact that there's a big puzzle here, and we're able to take out little pieces and put just little pieces together at a time, and it doesn't have to be so overwhelming that it has one giant price tag to it. So those are some of the ideas that we have right now. Donors, and we have a great project that just is hopefully breaking ground soon, based on donors, fundraising, and just community partners that have come out to say we support this project and we want to get it started right now, and we hopefully will very soon.
It sounds like you're talking about the baseball-related projects then. Would one of you want to go into more detail about some of the first steps taking place with that project? Maybe Dave?
Sure. Yeah, it was a joint effort, I guess you could say, working with Batavia Youth Baseball, BYB. We're trying to get into a better relationship with them, not that it was bad, but just have more cohesive communication with our feeder programs. The goal as an athletic department, obviously, is to have cohesion, between, is our athletes' very first walk on an athletic field, whatever that may be, at kindergarten or pre-K, all the way through senior and high school. We believe that's a tried and true model into developing a successful program, not just wins and losses, but just developing a community of support for what we do here. And so we started those conversations with BYB, and then we got into the conversation of making donations. And, we have this plan that we would like to get started on, and a real good number one priority that we thought, because of the safety issue that we talked about earlier, was improving our backstops and our dugouts at the varsity baseball fields. And so between Batavia Youth Baseball, our athletic booster club, and our baseball team itself here at the high school, did a joint three-way effort to raise, approximately $80,000 in donations to offset the material cost. And then the big donor will be Eagle Concrete. Obviously, we have one of our baseball coaches, Craig Martin, helped in that avenue to get a very significant, over $100,000 donation in time, in machinery, and just their knowledge and engineering to develop that as well. And so you're looking at almost a $200,000 donation here in a matter of just a couple months of rolling out the plan that they're going to be breaking ground on probably this weekend. The baseball team's ready to go and knock those dugouts down. And so, and so it's a very exciting time, but again, it's just, and we can say, hey, we've started something. We've done something with this plan, and so that was very important to everybody. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg, we hope. I think just with the work of our booster club and knowing the community support we have here with all of our feeder programs, we feel like that type of thinking can be a model to knock down quite a few of these, pieces of puzzles, like you said, to get some projects done.
Hey, Cathy, can I jump in? One of the things that we talked about at our last board meeting was so many people were confused and upset about what the implications of this plan were. And so one of the things that we were very excited about is it's a very fiscally conservative board, especially with our new board members that just came on. But we could not have accepted this donation without approving this plan, because we now know the vision of where everything will sit on our small piece of land. Mm-hmm. And so we were really excited to be consistent with our fiscal conservatism, our responsibility to our taxpayers, but with the great partnerships that we have in this community, we were able to, as Dave said, take the first step. So we were really excited about that, and we felt that could not have happened had we not had a visionary plan.
John, do you feel like this is a good example of those community dollars at work?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And Lisa, for you, how easy is it to sell the idea of this athletic plan? It's got to be pretty exciting for you to have had a child go through the school, you have a current child in the school, and you're trying to get the word out about some major improvements. Has it been an easy sell?
You know, it has been. We did a program during the fall season, which was Sponsor Yardline, and it was a great way. People stepped forward and sponsored a yardline for the season, and I guess there's still some buzz. People are still asking, how do I still do that? And we'll certainly have that available next year, and we're working on some other things throughout the year. Advertisers are stepping up. I think it's great for businesses in the community because the more athletes we bring, the more programs, marching band tournaments, things like that we bring to the Batavia High School, the more all the businesses in the area benefit. So the businesses have stepped forward, and you're going to see a little more advertising and promotion and sponsorship with those businesses here at the high school, which is really great. So it's been an easy sell from that standpoint, that it's really a win-win for everybody. And I think that the biggest appeal to some of these organizations that Dave's talked to is that it can be pieced in. We're not looking to do everything all at once. It's a segment at a time, and it can be dropped in when the monies become available.
Mitch, although you might not see the realization of this entire plan come to life, do you think that once some of these fields change over and are new and improved, that it would change the way that some Batavia teams are able to perform at home? And why or why not?
I think your facilities are always an impact on how you perform. Our weight room, our field house, I mean, it's a huge deal, and I definitely believe that would make an impact.
Would you guys care to comment on that also? Lisa, do you think it makes a big difference?
I'm going to speak to my older son, who is now he's a freshman in college, and I don't think he'd be going away to college if it weren't for a lacrosse scholarship. It's very difficult when a new sport comes on board, which lacrosse did. It was just varsity, and so some of these kids for the first 2 years really don't get a lot of playing time as a freshman or sophomore. It's difficult for a coach to put them out on the field with other varsity players. So programs like lacrosse benefit because the more fields that are available, the more we can put freshman athletes and sophomore athletes on the field and develop them. And so they do become better athletes. They become safer athletes. So for somebody like my son in the lacrosse program, that will benefit those kids. The synthetic fields are great because, again, you don't have quite as many of the cancellations with the games when it's muddy and wet in the spring.
And how about school morale? Do you think new fields would amp up school morale?
Absolutely. Look at what's happened with the field house and the auditorium. Right? I mean, those have been great benefits, not just to the students, but to the community. I mean, the Shrek program is coming up, and it's the talk of the little kids here in the community. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to see these youth come through these programs with some excitement and some enthusiasm. And I'm going to speak to something John said. Again, I'm going to speak to my own individual son now. He struggled in the academic world, but on the field, he learned some skills that he was struggling with: teamwork, taking instruction, all those things that we have the extracurricular activities for. So those classrooms do extend out to the fields, and for some kids, they do become more important in many ways than just what's in the academic, in the academic classroom. So they are still our classrooms. They're classrooms without walls, and money does need to be spent, time needs to be spent there with them, because that makes the whole individual, not just the athlete, not just the student. These are individuals that go on to do lots of things, and the athletes help them do those, build some life skills.
I can piggyback on that as well. All in all, we're educators, at least I'm an educator, Lisa's an educator. And so, I don't like to say athletics and academics they're not in silos. You know what I'm saying? We don't work and, here's the Board of Education here, here's our academic math classes and social studies here, and here's our athletics here. It's really not that way. It's a comprehensive high school. And, we hire high class teachers. Last year in the department that I oversee, we hired 5 educators, and we recruited them. We want the best for our students. And so when we were interviewing them, we taken them through the process, and then we walked them through the building. We showed them the auditorium, we showed them our field house, we showed them our weight room, we showed them all the technology in the building. That's what, sold them. They're like, oh, we want to be here. That only makes sense of what they have here. And so we never took them outside, though.
Yeah.
We only
showed them the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Ignore that big athletic structure in the background.
Exactly. And so in every one of my coaches, we preach this on a daily basis, that you're not going to get that playing time if you're not cutting it in the classroom. And, the majority of our coaches are math teachers, believe it or not. I mean, our math department is just full of just all of our coaches. And I think that's how serious we take it. I don't want it to be, this is just for extracurriculars. It is a curricular project as well. If you look at the entire project, there's an outdoor learning area in there. Obviously any of these turf fields can be used for PE classes. Again, there's a lot of different things about this project than just sports. Obviously, extracurriculars are going to benefit the most, but I just want to make sure we're not working in those individual areas that there are no crossovers. Because all in all, we are the educators. We just happen to be coaches as well.
Right. And John, would you care to respond to that? There is, and it can be argued that athletics do play into academics, and even music plays into academics. So do you see that side of that?
Sure.
Too?
And that's all true. And like I say, Batavia has a long history of supporting the athletics because it does play into it.
Yeah.
I think times are changing. How we fund it is going to change just because of the costs. And look at it, and I'm not accusing anyone, just as a topic to talk about. And I appreciate the involvement of the athletes, okay? And they all involve in practice. One of the points, if it is an educational experience, then should all participate in the game time? And again, it's not saying that what's happening now is wrong. It's not judging anything. It's just something that should be discussed. And at what level does it change, or should it change, or whatever? And that's involvement, and that's learning skills.
Right.
Okay, and so that should all be. And I have great faith in Batavia High School. Okay, I'm just going to say that. My sons went through here, had a great experience. Our neighbors, great experience. And it's a wonderful opportunity. But it's more than just athletes, okay, the athletic department.
Right.
Okay, it's a comprehensive. And it's always been that way. And that's always been the focus. And I would suggest that that's what the board's looking at. They're not just looking at this as being this plan to fix the physical facility. It's the plan that how do we adapt the physical facility into our educational program.
Right.
And that's how I view it.
We were talking about school morale, and I do have a question for you, John. I'd be interested. Let's say tomorrow some donor comes out of the woodwork, $13 million right there, whole project. So cost isn't a factor. You're showing your new friends around Batavia. Do you take it as a point of pride that your son's high school has these new facilities? Does that change your view of your hometown?
I don't. For me personally, I don't think it would, because I am proud of what Batavia does now, educationally.
Okay.
And I look at what it's done. To me, that's really super.
Yeah.
And this is the cherry on the whipped cream.
Okay.
So to speak.
Gotcha.
Okay. And that's how I look at it. We have a great program. I'm just the band, our neighbors in it, and they had to go for the weekend, and Saturday they performed. This was a week ago, and the kids in the band, and Prejudice, practice as much as the athletes.
Okay.
If not more so. All right? And they really put it in there, and they're dedicated, and they're focused, and they do a wonderful job. And I would suggest, we get in trouble, but I would suggest that the band probably gives more lifelong skills than the athletic experience. And that can be debated, I understand.
Sure.
But it's a wonderful experience. And I'm saying that there's a lot of those experiences at Batavia. And that's why I'm proud of Batavia, not just the athletic field.
Right. You were proud to begin with, so.
Yes.
And actually, I'd like to just jump in for a moment and speak as a parent, not as the school board president. But I almost, and this might be sort of blasphemous, but I almost think it's more exciting to see the way that we're working this project rather than having some genie appear with $13 million, because this is a really special community, and many, many people that you speak to moved here because this is a special community. We have really great schools. And so I think it's so exciting to see this community pull together and sort of work this project as a community. So I almost, not that I wouldn't mind a couple $1 million that a genie shows up, but I find it very exciting to see this process as a parent and a community member.
And I would like to add to that, I think as people contribute to this and as a part of it, they're also going to take care of it. And they're going to want to see it evolve. This is how things used to get done. You didn't just go out and collect taxes whenever you needed anything. This is how communities used to come together. If they wanted something, they made it happen. And I also want to speak to the band thing because, I walked out of the high school one day and looked over. The band sets up scaffolding every day for practice, stands up on scaffolding, and runs their band program. That's a lot of work for band practice, and they do put in so much work. So it would be really nice for them to have a place, an artificial turf field, where they can actually practice and not have to set up the scaffolding every day. And I don't know how they do it. How do you go from a park there's no lines marked or anything, and then bring that back to a stadium and stay in order and stay in line? It's amazing how they do that. But it would be nice if they could actually play and practice on the field.
Sure.
But it's hard on a grass turf to do that with 100 kids marching around every day.
And then we can host a marching band competition.
Absolutely. That would be...
It would raise revenues.
Absolutely. It would be great to see that happen. So, Cathy knows this, but this is about all the kids. This isn't just about the athletes. Finding their gifts, finding their passion, helping them with successes, with disappointments, whatever, all those life skills that it's about all the kids. Athletes, students, PE program, it's about all of them.
Well, we have more to discuss, but we do have to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more Viewpoint.
At Shelter Insurance, we're people who know that the first love of your life...
I need you to take the screws off.
...might have been made of steel.
Thank you.
Shelter Insurance. For your auto, home, and life, we're your shield. We're your shelter.
Ask Agent Mike Hanrahan about Shelter's auto insurance discounts.
Downtown Batavia, always moving by nature. Recreation. Nature. The arts. Specialty shops. Restaurants and services. Downtown is everyone's neighborhood. Come, celebrate. Meet friends. Unwind.
See you downtown. Welcome back to Viewpoint. Cathy, the next question is for you, and it involves the arboretum that is on the athletic field site. Right now there are some memorial trees that are planted there, and the project would affect the placement of those trees. What do you think should be done with the trees, if anything?
That's a really sensitive and important topic, and we've been looking at that ever since this entire vision has been being put together. The plan does have the trees being removed from that specific location. But one of the sad things that we found about the Arboretum is many of our community members don't even know it's there, and so many of those trees are memorial trees, and we do not have markers. We have no way of honoring those who those trees were put there in memorial for. So the plan does take into account, and I don't know that we've highlighted it well, that trees would be planted throughout the project in some really beautiful ways. I think Dave mentioned an outdoor learning center, but we really look at this as an opportunity to, for one thing, we would really like to involve the people that this impacts the most.
Sure.
And most of those people don't have children in our schools now. So we are working on a project to reach out to those individuals. But the plan would be to do plantings and then have a rededication and mark those trees so that people are aware why they're there, why we have them. So we would lose the maturity of the Arboretum now, but I think that we could do some really meaningful and beautiful things with our grounds out of respect for what that was first there for. So that is definitely, and one misconception is that the baseball project will affect the Arboretum now, and the baseball project will not at all affect the Arboretum. And that's a really, really important point that we want people to know. Those trees are not going anywhere, and it is far out on our plan to make sure that we have taken all of those concerns into account before we'd make any final decisions.
How many trees are there right now?
40-ish.
And how many can you associate a family to exactly?
Specific trees? Virtually none.
Okay, so it is very difficult without the markers there.
It is very difficult, but we did find a document that did have a lot of the history of who were originally donated.
Okay.
So again, we can really nicely honor those families and the people that were supposed to be honored, and we can do it in a way that will last longer. People will actually remember and know what those were for.
Okay. And Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think Cathy pretty much summed up everything that is important with that topic, but just to highlight again that the original plan does call for those trees to be, or to have some trees to honor the people who were originally honored in the Arboretum, but it's throughout the whole facility. So as people are walking to the baseball game and the soccer games, they're going to see as they walk the trees dedicated to the people, and I'm sure that is important to those families, that people would know that tree was planted in the honor of their loved one. And right now the Arboretum isn't very accessible to people.
And John and Lisa, do you care to speak about the Arboretum as well?
Just to reiterate that the approach seems a very reasonable, respectful idea, concept, and I would totally support that.
Okay.
I would agree. I think the plans that Dave has talked about and that everybody's talked about, I think they really have a great way to honor these people.
Well, we're to the end of the discussion. I'd like to get some final thoughts from all of you about the Batavia Facilities Master Plan. Lisa, how about we start with you?
Well, my role with the boosters has been to raise some money for this, and so I am always looking for support, help, donations, any local businesses, any individuals who'd like to step forward. Batavia Bulldog Boosters.org is the best way to reach us, and it's exciting. It's really exciting to see this actually happening, and I think some of these projects are closer than what we really thought they were a year or two ago when we started looking at this. So it's really exciting to be part of it.
Thank you. John?
As long as it stays a community project, I totally support it. I wouldn't necessarily support it if it was a tremendous tax burden.
Sure. Thank you. And Lisa?
Yeah, some of along those same lines, one of the comments on the feedback section was, the board should be careful and not just vote on the administration's plan. And when I read that, I thought this really isn't administration's plan. I was the high school principal, and I didn't say we have to do this. Let's put this document together. And you talked about your role, and in my role in this project, I see as making sure that the conversations are happening and that we're problem solving and that we aren't just turning away the boosters and saying, nope, that's too big of a price tag, we don't want to talk about it. I think that as a board and as a superintendent that we are, our role is to make sure these conversations are happening and that we're finding ways to solve these problems together as a community.
Thank you. Cathy?
I think the board feels really strongly about being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, but we also feel that it's important to be looking long-term and being visionary. And the athletic field is really about our philosophy about extracurriculars. And so I pulled some research on just extracurricular activities and the benefits they have for students. So youth who participate are more likely, and this is any extracurriculars.
Okay.
They have better grades, they have higher standardized test scores, they have higher educational attainment, they attend school more regularly, they have higher self-concepts. They're also less likely to use substances, to drop out of school, to misbehave, or commit delinquent acts. That all supports their education. So this plan isn't about sports, really. This athletic plan is about our students, and it's about providing this all-encompassing atmosphere that encourages them and supports them. It supports our mission of always learning, always growing. And that's why, as a community project, and we're excited to partner and support and really be visionary about it.
Thank you so much. Mitch?
I think it's a great way to, bring the sports, all the sports, and, to the next level. and, really prosper. It gives us, lots more potential.
Well said. And last but not least, Dave.
All right. Just going all the way back to the very first meetings of designing this, plan. I mean, we had about 20 people at the table, from marching band to BYB, the football community program, the baseball representatives, soccer representatives, just PE teachers that were there representing, and so we tried to take a vast amount of input, at the very get-go of this. And because I knew, obviously, this was going to come with a price tag eventually. And so we wanted to make sure that we had that input, so we had some sort of, logical, plan in place. And I feel like the plan is a very, good plan for what we have here at Batavia. And I think through community sport, we've already seen, the baseball, we've already seen the boosters step up with some money. And I think just that little bit of, effort at the beginning is going to pay, great dividends at the end. And hopefully, maybe not by the time Mitch graduates, but maybe we'll get something for him.
He'll come back, right, Mitch?
Exactly. But I think for the future of Batavia High School, at least for the next 25 years, it's going to be very bright. And, our total student body is going to benefit from it.
Thank you to all of our guests on this episode of Viewpoint. We hope that we have answered your questions about the Batavia Sports Facilities Master Plan. For more information on the master plan, please visit the Batavia Public Schools 101 website at www.bps101.net. And for more information on the Batavia Bulldog Booster Organization, visit www.bataviabulldogboosters.org. To watch previous episodes of Viewpoint, or if you have a topic you would like to see discussed on a future episode of Viewpoint, please submit a request through the BATV website at www.mybatv.com. I'm Cathy Gresey. See you next time on Viewpoint.